Hello and welcome. My name is Pete McGraw, and this is my perspective presentation as part of the final assignment for CCHE 680 Higher Education in the United States. For those who don't understand or those who question the intent of public higher education, it is important to point out that these institutions serve students who attend for a variety of purposes. Some students desire social mobility, and education becomes an advantage in the social competition for positions of influence. Others value democratic equality, and they want to develop skills that will make them more responsible citizens. Still, other students attend college to receive training that will help them perform important roles that will allow them to contribute more meaningfully to the public good. At different points in time throughout U.S. history, higher education has been seen as both a public good and a private good. For those who see college as an avenue for social mobility, education is a private good because they are making a personal investment in their own futures, and the rewards of that investment will benefit them directly. The democratic equality and social efficiency perspectives view education as a public good because it is helpful to everyone in society if more people receive an education. This division has created a problematic dynamic in higher education because the emphasis on an individual's own social mobility has led to competition among schools, which has driven up tuition prices. And ultimately, higher education has become less and less obtainable to more and more students in the nation. The need for social mobility is still present, however, because college graduates have greater earning power than their peers who have only a high school diploma. For students who come from minoritized groups, going to college is an important step in improving their circumstances in which they grew up. Those who believe in education as a public good recognize the substantial work that needs to be done and how expensive it will be, but they point to the economic gains of the entire nation as reason for making major changes in higher education. Additionally, the public good faction wants to reframe how public colleges and universities are perceived. It should be viewed positively, they say, that so many students can attend these institutions because the local communities stand to benefit most from the teachers, nurses, engineers, etc., who graduate from these schools. Higher education relies on four main pillars to function as efficiently as possible. These pillars are funding, enrollment, academic freedom, and governance. Public colleges and universities receive state funding to operate. However, funding for higher education is typically among the first items to be cut from a state's budget in difficult economic times. As the country continues to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, colleges and universities have seen a decrease in the funding available from states. As a result, tuition prices have gone up, while the financial aid available to students has not kept pace. This is especially problematic for students from marginalized backgrounds who depend on aid to receive an education. Understandably, then, enrollment in these public institutions has also decreased since students are feeling the financial pressure now more than ever. In addition to the funding and enrollment decreases, colleges and universities are also dealing with attempted infringements on academic freedom, which is the free-flowing exchange of ideas and concepts between students and instructors that occurs without interference from outside groups with political agendas. The content that is being targeted most by these groups is curricula related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, so students are not able to receive the information necessary to progress society forward. Related to these attempts to control what is allowed to be taught on college campuses is the issue of governance. Most states have a governing board or agency that is responsible for overseeing the institutions of higher education in that state. Typically, these members are appointed by the governor, so there is a built-in political connection that is troublesome since these groups have budgetary oversight and approval of academic programs and policies. These attacks on the pillars of higher education are certainly worrisome, but there is reason for hope as higher education transitions into the fifth wave. More and more, Americans are coming to the realization that how we are currently operating is not best for all. Access to colleges and universities needs to be expanded, and students of all backgrounds need to be encouraged to pursue their dreams through education. Part of this transition is a shift in the public's opinion that the government should be more directly involved in paying for citizens' educations. This shift is significant since the past 40 years have seen the rise of education as a private good that individuals needed to provide for themselves in order to get ahead. Today, the majority of Americans cannot afford to go to college, and society is starting to examine why that is and what can be done about it. To instill real change, the US must think creatively to find new solutions that serve more than just a privileged few. Although the COVID-19 pandemic was a tremendous challenge that strained many institutions, it is also a wonderful opportunity to pivot to new approaches that are more inclusive and equitable for all. The most critical component of new approaches to funding higher education is the removal of the financial burden from students. By and large, recent college graduates are struggling to pay back their loans because they are not making enough money in their occupations. This has ripple effects for the rest of the economy, and it is time for a change. More schools should adopt partnerships like those Arizona State has with Starbucks and Uber that allows employees to go to school tuition free. Another novel approach would be redirecting the exorbitant revenue most public colleges and universities make from athletics to pay staff and faculty and other institutional expenses so students would not have to pay tuition. Similarly, institutions should take out loans to pay for their annual costs as opposed to students taking out loans, because institutions could use athletic revenue or other sources of income to pay off those loans, and students would not need to worry about the cost. Other countries around the world do not require students to begin paying off their loans until they have reached a certain financial threshold in which they are comfortable, and the US should consider adopting the same policy. Lastly, businesses of all sizes should be encouraged to sponsor students in nearby institutions by paying for their tuition and creating jobs for them upon graduation. Public institutions of higher education also need to increase their presence in K through 12 school systems in the local areas so that those students have increased familiarity and comfort with the university when it is their time to go to college. To avoid political conflicts of interest, universities and colleges should be allowed to run themselves with leadership that is chosen from within their ranks. That way, decisions are made by those who are directly involved with the institution, since they know what is best for that particular school. Higher education is reactive to the society in which it operates, and if the US wants to see improvement, there needs to be a drastic change in how we care for those who are different from us.